Hey everybody, Shakti here, going live to talk tonight with the amazing Eugina O'Liberty, dating coach, about dating in 2025. So just waiting for Eugina to join the call, and I can see I can see some hearts, and let's just yeah, I'm going to ask Eugina to join and then we'll get going. So really excited about this. You can see I'm super flushed. Hello, my love.
Hi.
I've been rushing to get here. I had a shower. I'm all like hot at the moment.
You look great. You look wonderful.
Thank you. As do you.
Thank you. I just came out from meditation activation, so I feel quite relaxed and zen and wonderful.
Oh, yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I can really see and feel that. I'm coming in with more of a like fiery excitement, so that's quite nice. Got a bit of yin and yang going on between us.
Lovely, lovely. I think that's the best way to do things, is like having a bit of like wow and a bit of like oh, it's beautiful. So how shall we begin this experience, this conversation?
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, as I was just preparing to come on, I was just tuning in to some of the themes that might be really useful, exciting, inspiring to talk about. And I've certainly got like, I couldn't stop once I kind of opened to, hey, come on, what are the themes that would be really cool to address that I'm noticing? So that's one thing, but I suppose maybe a little bit of a backtrack. Perhaps it would be useful. I know a lot of people know us, a lot of people follow us, but maybe it would be useful to start by just doing like a really short intro of ourselves for anybody who's watching, because this is public. So anyone could be joining this, anyone could be watching this, anyone could be watching it back. And of course, they have no idea who we are or what we do, or why we're inspired to offer this, you know, because it's this co-creation has just kind of come through a thread of energy that's brought us together. So maybe we could take turns just kind of sharing a little bit about our background and how we've come to this call, and then I think maybe get on to some of the themes of what would be really cool to discuss in terms of the theme of dating in 2025. How does that sound?
I think that sounds amazing. And indeed, not everybody knows us or what we are doing. So I think it would be quite helpful to actually introduce like why we even having this conversation about dating in 2025. So why don't you go first? And meanwhile, I'm going to share this live to a few groups so more people can reach us.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. See, I love co-creation already.
It works. It just works.
So cool. Okay. So, my name is Shakti Sundari. I'm a priestess of love and a teacher of embodied awakening. And as part of that background of teaching embodied awakening and being a priestess of love, there's also a lot of authentic relating that has been a part of what I've been fascinated by and teaching too. So when I talk about embodied awakening, it's things like conscious dance, Kundalini yoga, meditation, and Tantra, which are all different forms of connecting with the divine within oneself and the divine within the other, and realizing and recognizing that we are one. So every part of these practices are about, in a way, unifying, unification, coming together and relating consciously. So that's kind of been my background for the last 20 years or more, actually. I wrote this beautiful book called Rapture, which is a guide to sexual and spiritual awakening for women. And then in the last couple of years, I've kind of taken a bit of a break from all of this, been quite low key for the last couple of years. And in coinciding with that, I have been single for 3 years, and I've been celibate in that time completely. And then last year, I really had this desire that I wanted to start dating again. And coming out into the world with this intention of, I want to have dates, I want to meet some interesting men, you know, ultimately I'd love to have a relationship. And then discovering it's not really how it used to be. I found it quite difficult, quite challenging to meet somebody. And so I blogged about it because I also love to write, and it's one of my great passions. And my first blog just seemed to sort of set off this huge reaction of like all of these, mostly women and some men, kind of saying, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said this. Like, I'm so glad you've raised this point. And then I've just kept blogging about it and created this whole new stream of interest, which I had no intention of doing. But it's really beautiful to be blogging about dating as a woman. I'm 60, and so the title is Dating as a Woman at 60. And it's sort of bringing together all of these different aspects of my background in Tantra, in conscious relating, in embodied awakening, all of it. And I'm just loving it and seeing so many fascinating trends and themes and things coming up, which, you know, are relevant to so many people. So I feel like I've said a lot. I just got excited. So Eugina, over to you. Introduce yourself.
Of course, thank you so much. And I love that. I love that as you've been going on your own journey and you've been documenting it, and actually helps you to process things too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that a lot. And my name is Eugina O'Liberty, and I am a dating coach. I have been helping women and men to date, and I work with some couples and help them to rediscover spark in their relationships. But mostly I work with singles and help them to create and keep juicy and passionate relationships that rock their world, but in the most incredible way that feels easy and safe and healthy. Because a lot of people have got quite a lot of baggage of traumatic experiences actually. And I help people to process those and leave that behind so that they don't have to carry that into their present and their future. I had an accident in the beginning of last year, and while I was in hospital, I was actually also single for a number of years. And when I was in hospital, in a ward uh, with me, there was a lady, probably in her 70s or something, maybe even older. And she was every day visited by her husband and her kids and her grandkids. And they've been like having big gatherings every Sunday. And I just like laid down there because I was immobile, and I was like, I think that this is what I was running away from, and I feel like this is what I want for myself, and this is the true currency of our lives actually, is the true connection, true partnerships, true relationships, true connection. Whether that's your family or people around you, it has to be authentic, it has to be meaningful, it has to be bringing light into your life. And since then I started dating, being in hospital. Completely bedbound. I was dating and processing. Seriously, if I can date in hospital, bedbound, unable to go anywhere, I assure you, anyone can date being in full health, you know, for sure. So yes, and since then I actually started dating, and now I'm in a relationship with someone who is very lovely. And um, it feels very nice and interesting because since the moment where I wasn't, able to run away anymore, I just had to stay and deal with what is, you know. I created an amazing course called Dating Bootcamp that helps people. Sometimes I host it for men, but mostly it's for women, to get rid of this baggage and become very present to what we desire in life. Like, because sometimes what we think we want is not actually what we want. And it's like connecting to that deep and true desire that is really there, and we have been like swashing it away, like no, 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 it's not the right time. I had one of my clients, she had like a big black book with all the dreams and everything tucked in somewhere, you know, collecting dust, and it was always on the back of the mind. And very often what happens, we do that with relationships. Oh, but it's not the right time. Oh, but I need to focus on this project right now.
Yeah.
Oh, but this is like, there is always an excuse why not to.
I can relate a little bit to that because I'm renovating my home at the moment, and it is really time consuming. And so there has been a bit of a thing of like, oh, well, I'll get that done and then I can do this, you know. So I've definitely had that. And I was like, no, I don't want to wait. I want to start dating now. And the other thing, like I made a note, like as you were sharing your beautiful story, it is so inspiring to, you know, to hear like you saw this family, you saw this older lady with her family and the love and the sort of generations coming to be there at her bedside, and how it inspired you. And that must have felt quite vulnerable in that moment of like recognizing that was something you wanted and you didn't have. And also I noticed that you said I had been running away from it.
Yeah, for
Do you
sure.
mind me asking, because like I don't know, like you can ask me anything, what was it that you were running away from? Because I bet people can relate to what you're going to say. I don't know what you're going to say, but
Yeah, you know, this is a great question actually. And uh, I I was looking for love for as long as I can remember myself. Since I was a child, I was looking for love. Like, I come from a very violent and, you know, unhealthy background. My family, my childhood hasn't been like, you know, roses and unicorns. There was parts of that, but mostly it was quite, you know, traumatic. So looking for love has been always something that kept me like, oh, but I want love, and, you know, living in a dreamland of like this. But anytime when a guy, a good guy, would come near me, I would just like seem to, you know, create a lot of reasons why it's not a good idea for us to be together.
okay.
And I would always run away or create a reason for not to. And I would like, what is going on? What is wrong with me? You know, it's like so many guys are trying to like get to know me, but there was like always a wall, like no. And I have recognized with doing a lot of self development and self work that it's just not felt safe to allow anyone into my space,
Okay.
because all the time it associated, if someone gonna come in, that they may take over, I would lose my freedom. I would Losing my freedom has been a massive thing for me. Like, I consider myself being a strong and independent woman. I have so many ideas. I have so many friends, so many projects, you know, co-creating this. I'm very flirtatious, I'm very sexy, you know, and I can't possibly allow anyone to tell me not to be that. But of course, you know, being self-aware now, I can say that I don't have to sacrifice being all of that and being in a relationship.
Right.
But in the past, I felt, because my experience of relationship has been that it was caging.
Yep.
It was caging. So people were, you know, coming into my life and telling me what to do and what not to do. And like, I had to bite my tongue because I didn't know what healthy boundaries was.
Right.
And I didn't know how to communicate my needs and wants and desires in a way that feels authentic to me, where we can understand each other. It felt that I always had to submit to their way.
Mm.
And this is why I have been running away.
Yeah.
And uh, um, I also travel quite a lot. And I was like traveling, and it's like, oh yeah, maybe it would be nice to be in a relationship, but who potentially could have this freedom on their hands like me? Because in the past also, a lot of men that I would connect with, they would tell me, Eugina, you're too free.
Ha!
You live in a la la land, you're too free. And to be honest, that was the case, because I traveled, I don't know, 8 months out of 12,
Okay.
doing what I want. I don't have kids, so nothing ties me down. I travel for work all the time. I live the lifestyle on my terms.
Sounds great.
It sounds amazing. It is amazing. It is absolutely fantastic. But you see, it can be quite intimidating to those who doesn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to find the not even inner peace with me, but just like soothing in a thought that the right person will not be intimidated by my freedom and my strength.
Right, exactly. That's a really good point, strength and freedom as a woman. Somebody, so, and I think a lot of people watching this will find this point interesting. And again, I don't know what I'm going to say, but just going to go there and see what happens. So in these 2 months, I think it is, that I've been like, I made the decision, I announced it to the world. So like, once you announce it, there's no going back, right? Because
Yeah.
I did it, I'm doing it.
Yes.
I've had one date, or like I've had 2 dates with one person.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the first things he said to me was, you're so present, it's intimidating.
Mm.
And then a girlfriend of mine made a comment the other day about, oh, I don't think it's da 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 da. I think most guys are scared of you. And I was like, how could someone be scared of me? I'm so warm and friendly and open-hearted, and like, how could I possibly be scary? So I don't see that myself, and I guess to the outside world, both of us would be regarded as empowered, as sexy, as embodied, as strong, powerful women. And I can recognize that aspect within myself. I've been a single mum sort of through most of my children's growing up. I've been self-employed most of the last 25 years, so I am extremely competent and extremely bright and extremely all of those things. So I guess that might be perceived as being strong. But there's also a real tenderness, sensitivity, vulnerability, strong feminine that's there as well. And I'm kind of curious about things like, because I'm looking at the moment so much at what other dating coaches are saying and what the dialogue and what the narrative is out there. And there's all this sort of teaching around polarity, which I understand, like coming from Tantra and coming from yoga, it's all about the polarity of the masculine energy and the feminine energy, and the sort of unity of the two. So I get it. And then there's a lot of teachings about, oh, you have to be in your feminine to attract a man, and if you're too much in your masculine, then you're not going to attract the man. And then things like women are hyper masculine, and that's not going to be attractive. And I think it can get like really, really confusing for people and for men and for women, about like, okay, well, what the fuck am I supposed to be?
Yeah.
I'm self-employed. I'm running a business. I don't want to change that about myself. I don't want to change how vibrating. Oh, okay. How vibrating and vivacious I am. I
Yeah.
can't change that. I don't want to change that. I go dancing and I'm like in the middle of the dance floor, like radiating massive energy. I don't want to change that for anyone, for anything, right? So it's going to kind of self-select a certain number of people, I guess, in terms of the dating world. But do you have any kind of, yeah, do you have anything to add in terms of like being a strong woman, being an independent woman, and how that fits into dating?
You know, I definitely know that there's so much advice that it's sometimes so confusing. It's like, am I supposed to be doing this or am I not? Like, what is going on? And it's like every other person says a different thing, and it's like can be so confusing.
Yeah.
And for me personally, the most important thing is like what lays within your heart. This is the most important thing. What do you believe is possible for you? What do you believe, you know? And very important thing, one thing that I have learned for myself that was super helpful for me was not to live in a world of fiction, but live in a world of what is, you know? And I'm saying that because often when we meet somebody and we like them or we want to like them and they kind of fit the mold of the or idea of the person we want to have, we kind of try to fit them into that mold.
Right. Definitely done that in the past.
Right. Yeah. But you know, this is not going to work. It doesn't have any substance behind it. So like actually watching and observing people for who they are. And I understood one thing, that on a first date, you like nobody presents themselves as the best version of themselves on the first date. Everyone comes to date as completely nervous, or maybe a little bit nervous, or maybe like, well, what is happening, you know? But there's this element of newness to it, and people don't gonna be themselves fully in a first interaction. So it takes time to get to know someone. So my my way of dating is to meet the person, like, and first meeting is like usually a couple of hours, going for a cup of tea and a chat, something like that, something not a big commitment. We don't have to sit over a long dinner together and interview each other. It just doesn't have to be the case. And I remember with my partner, we've met and we went for a chat, and it was super cold. So we went for a cup of tea and we had another chat. And I was just like, it was so unusual, but so like easy at the same time. But I didn't know what to make up about him. You know, I thought that he's attractive. I thought he's quite a bit younger than me, you know. So I was like, well, I don't know. I was just like, I don't know. I just met this person.
Yep.
And then I had to come back home and do a meditation and tune into my genitals, like really ask my pussy, what do you think? You know, it's like, is it a yes or is it a no? And she said, yes. It's a yes. I'm like, okay. Okay, so I'm not going to rule this out, you know? I just follow my body.
Yes.
And, you know, my body is not always in the feminine energy. I am not always in the feminine energy. Yet, you know, he's not always in his masculine energy. Most of the time he's, for sure, but not always. But I think that it's a dance, you know. You don't have to heal all of your traumas, but what you have to be is, you have to, because with the right person, they will help you to heal those traumas. But what you have to be enough self-aware to understand what is holding you back. And if there is a projection from the past because your ex-partner did that, and now this new person is in your life, are there similarities? You know, there was a time for me when I was coming out of the relationship, and I just reflected. It's like, somehow all of my relationships are the same, like in the essence. I'm like, maybe the problem was not them, maybe the problem is me. And I couldn't unthink that thought, and I understood, like, actually I was the problem. I was the problem. So yeah, I think, living in a life where and the era where everything is so disposable and so quickly you can swipe right, swipe left, and go on the next day tomorrow, like literally the next day. I think what we are lacking is a commitment to get to know the person for who they are. Right. And you cannot do that on a first date.
Right, for sure. I mean, actually, I'd like to say something to that and speak to that just in terms of my direct experience going onto an app, because I had vowed I'm never going to do an app ever again. I'm just going to meet people in real life because that's what works for me. That's always worked for me. Like, to cut a long story short, what I found whenever I went on an app is that I would get messages from a lot of older men, what I'm not interested in. I mean, not just because of their age, there were other reasons as well. And not really getting approached by guys who were in any way a match for me. But in real life, that's when, you can kind of tell pretty quickly, like just from someone's energy and body language, whether there's some affinity, there's some similarity. So I just find that a better way of meeting people in general. But I went back on to I'm trying out this dating app for a month called Field, which probably a lot of people know. It's called the app for open-minded people, and it really actually is really good in some ways, in terms of there's a lot more alternative people on this app. The quality of the photographs is really good, because that's one of my major gripes about dating apps, is the quality of the photos is so terrible. And there are a lot of really alternative minded people. What else do I want to say about it? And I'm getting approached by a lot of younger guys, like a lot. And that's kind of much more up my street, actually. But the thing I've noticed is just so interesting, because like you match with someone and then you'll start to have a little bit of a chat, a text chat. And then at a certain point, I had like 9 chats open with 9 different people. And then they just disappear, like one guy would say, oh, would you like to meet? And I said yes. And then he's like, stop messaging. And I don't take this personally. And I think for me, this is one of my messages in terms of the conscious dating approach that I'm kind of bringing through, which is, this isn't personal. And I think in the past, like before, I would have taken that personally and made it mean something about me, and made it mean like there's something unattractive or like not worthy about me. Now I just don't even have that thought. I just laugh and I'm like, oh, he stopped messaging. Okay, bye, But what it's showing me is like what you were saying, this idea of like, obviously those guys are swiping other people and having chats with other people. And I'm like, oh my goodness. It's like being a kid in a candy store in terms of what seems to be on offer. But if you're really looking for like authentic, like you also use the word authentic, like real heartfelt meeting with another person, connection with another person, I do feel like I don't want to discount apps. Like, I'm having a different experience now, and I want to remain open-minded to any possibility, right? So I'm not just going to say all apps are shit and forget it. But I do think like the way we're all living more on our phones now, and everything's gone phone wise, and particularly like the younger people get, everything's on the phone. I think there's an unlearning of actually how to communicate, how to relate, how to interact in a healthy way, particularly with the opposite sex. And then there are so many other things that are feeding into this, like the rise of porn, which again, like you get, or like things like OnlyFans, where you get to interact with somebody through a screen but it's not human, eye to eye, energy to energy, like in the same room interaction. And I think it's damaging relationships to a certain extent, you know, and people are unlearning the skill of just approaching someone and having a conversation without it being such a huge deal. You know, I think there's a lot more anxiety about approaching people. I think also the whole thing about, and you know, there's good things to this, the shift in awareness around boundaries and consent and respectful ways for men to approach women and vice versa. I think that's made men really nervous about how to approach a woman, and you know, am I going to do it wrong? Am I going to offend her? Is she going to accuse me of something? You know, there's all that. And then at the same time, like on the other end of it, one of my blogs I wrote about this is like, you know, I have been sexually harassed quite a few times, and in all the women's groups that I've held space for, typically a third of the women in those groups will have experienced sexual abuse, and every woman has experienced at least one incident, but usually more of sexual harassment. So then there's like this fear of, you know, like one of the blogs I wrote was like, if I smile at a guy, is he going to take that as an invitation? And I don't want unwanted attention. And at the same time, I want to remain open. So you want to say something about that? Go on.
Oh, yeah, yes. I definitely do. Because, you know, I actually know that a lot of women, they are trapped in their masculine energy because it's safer, because they don't have to be, because being feminine, it's being in the flow, it's being sexy, and it's being, you know, just like kind and smiling and flawless. And what happens is feeling in the feminine energy becomes insecure, it becomes a weakness, it becomes that anyone can come and take advantage of you. So association. But the truth is that you can receive everyone with approval, right? So for example, you can learn the internal safety that even when you're in your feminine energy, even when you dress sexy and someone whistles at like to you on the street, instead of taking an offense to that, you can just think to yourself, oh, they expressing an appreciation for me in a way that is available to them. Because you know what happens, like not everyone has done a lot of self-development. Not every person has got emotional intelligence.
That's true.
You know, and what happens, a lot of guys, they, and women too, they work with what is available to them. So a lot of people don't know how to express their emotions in a polite way that you would receive well. You know, it's like, oh, you look lovely today. Oh, thank you very much. It's like people like not always do that. They sometimes it's like, oh, yeah, sexy, how are you doing? You know, and this is the way that is available to them, like not to compromise who they are, you know. So I think when you meet that with approval and the view that they're using the tools and resources that they have, things become that, oh, it's not about me, they're not harassing me, they're showing appreciation to me, you know, with what is available there. And it will help you to develop this sense of security inside. But this is sense of security, I think a lot of women that I work with, and men for that matter too, have a sense of fear, not feeling safe in our bodies. Actually an epidemic of today's world, I think, along with loneliness. And
right,
yeah, and that keeps us isolated, and that keeps us socially awkward. And it seems like I had a friend that every time we would go to the restaurant, she would want to sit somewhere in a corner and hide because people would look at us. I'm like, of course they're gonna look at us. We look gorgeous. Why wouldn't they look at us? She's like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. I'm like, yeah, you know, like people gonna look, and that's okay. We have eyes. We're gonna we're gonna see what is going on around us. But then when people don't look, we just see that, oh, nobody is like friendly, so we kind of cannot win with each other.
Yeah, I have a slightly different perspective to you on some of these things. I do think it's really good that society has changed in terms of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, in terms of things that were normal when I was young that are not acceptable now. I'm so grateful those are not normal. Like being a schoolgirl and having people make sexual comments to me. That's not okay. That's not acceptable. So I'm really glad that things have changed, and that there is a greater level of awareness around boundaries and consent and respectful interactions. So I'm really grateful for that myself. And at the same time, I think, like we've both already referred to, I think what that has created is an anxiety for a lot of men about how to be then, and a not knowing and a not understanding what is appropriate, what is inappropriate, and a confusion. And what I think is also created for some men is actually like a repression of their sexuality in an unhealthy way. So, and of course, if we're talking about dating, it's about getting together and being intimate is part of that, right? So one thing I want to distinguish is, and I know this is kind of quite refined in a way, it's like men's sexual energy is beautiful, powerful, penetrative. When it's really connected to the heart and God, it is completely clarifying and transcending. And we need that energy in the world. It's only when that energy is not conscious and it's repressed and it's surrounded by shame and distortion that unhealthy and dangerous things can happen. And so what I see is an opportunity for this relearning, and I think we're in that phase now, like societally, socially, where we're like there's a whole kind of change and shift and transformation that's happening in how we interact, in how we relate, and how we make love at the moment. And part of this, the opportunity that I see is for men and women to integrate the sex and the heart. But it's like when that sexual energy gets repressed, but it's still there, it's going to come out in distorted ways and unhealthy ways, and sometimes violent and dangerous ways. So it's not like shut it off and put it away. It's like, no, learn to embrace and hold it within yourself and be responsible for it within yourself, recognizing it's yours. And it's a powerful gift. It's a gift. And so same for women, like our sexuality is so divine, so beautiful, so powerful, so creative. And it's a gift to share this. So again, with all of this like online interactions, it sort of feels to me like this sense of the sacred and the potency that is possible is being sort of filtered away and lost, in terms of, it's being filtered away and lost in some arenas. But it's kind of like, that's the negative. The positive is a huge opportunity for us to kind of co-create new ways of relating and new ways of dating and new ways of, or sort of more integrated ways of being together.
Yeah. I actually met my boyfriend on dating app.
Which one?
Facebook dating.
Okay.
Yeah. I find actually better quality of people there who actually are looking for a serious relationship instead of who looking for hookups, So that's been quite refreshing to me. And I will tell you that at the same time, like probably like within like same couple of days, I have met like maybe 3 or 4 people, 3 or 4 men that I started a conversation with. And With one, I had this instant connection just by just first exchange. It was very sensational. It was like butterflies and everything. And I was like, uh-oh, bad news. Bad news, you know, because sometimes we just look for this sensation for like, oh, instant connection. We must be twin flames or something.
Yeah.
No.
Been there.
So, so I have learned that actually I was like, this feels fun and I have to watch it. So in a way we agreed that we're gonna become friends, besties, so called. So as we became besties, we started like sharing our experiences, sharing about our dating life and things like that. And what started happening, I started observing myself, how I am with him and how he's with me. And I've started noticing little things like the way he communicated to me, and like, well, if we call each other besties, like surely there is a meaning, you know, to it. But there was a couple of situations that has happened, and always in my mind, Eugina, he's just a dude of the internet who doesn't care. Just a dude of the internet who doesn't care. Just a random dude, you know, just like a random guy you never met before of the internet.
Okay.
You know, and I was like just holding the thought. So as we kept getting to know each other more, there's some other things were like coming up and everything, and I was just observing all of these kind of ways that I thought were quite, I don't like using word narcissistic. I'll use word self-absorbed and wanting to make me wrong when, you know, he didn't like something what I did or something like that. And it was a time when like actually a good indication for me that I don't want to be around a person like that, you know. So in a way, for us, our connection, we met on a dating app and we created a connection and we kept communicating, we kept being in touch to understand who is he and who am I.
Yeah.
And that was enough for me to understand, actually I don't want to pursue this connection anymore. You know, where for example with my current partner, we hardly spoke on the app. We just exchanged just like a couple of sentences maybe. And the first thing he said was, hey, would you like to go on a date? I was like, would you like to meet? I'm like, when? He's like, this evening. I was like, yeah, okay, let's go. And we've met, you know, and then we met another time. And then the third date was in a hospital. So, you know, I think that what is very important in dating is self-awareness, but also awareness of people that you in connection with.
Yeah, this is really cool. I'm kind of like trying to write some things down as you're talking to like come back and say, oh yes, this thing. Like, so there's a few points there that I really want to pick up on. So the first thing, yeah, and it's great to kind of have a thing to reference to. So like when I went on the dating app, I had this thing in my mind, like I have to meet someone, well not have to, but like I have this frame of reference, like they have to be between 40 and 62 and they have to have blah, 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 blah. And then I started to get all these likes from guys who are like under 30 or like under 40. Like, I'm like, why are all these 20-year-olds messaging me? Like, what the heck? And at first I was like, no. And then I was like, well, let me have a look. And like stop kind of being so rigid in my mental framework of what it had to be, and just like you're saying, just kind of actually listen to my body, not in terms of like, oh, am I getting completely turned on? Actually, not in, that's not how it goes for me. For me, I just kind of, I can listen to my body, I can look at someone's photos and I can kind of tune into their energy and I can get a sense of that person. And so I started to do that instead and let go of the criteria, you know, the checklist. And so then I began to say, I like back some guys who are quite a lot younger. And then, so, but then there was one where there was this really strong, like, I was like, crikey, this is a really strong, like, and then it was a sexual feeling. I was like, wow, this is, because I'm now a lot more self-aware than I used to be, I'm noticing it. I'm like, oh, I'm noticing this really strong desire, like, that's rising. So it's like I'm observing myself as it's happening. And I'm like, shall I follow it? Shall I not follow it? And I'm like, yes, follow it. See how it feels to follow it. So I followed it and I was like, oh, that feels good. And then he responded and that felt good. So I kept following. And then there was a moment where the kind of that sort of sexual feeling like peaked. And I was like, oh, I think I really need to see this guy, but I'm still witnessing it. You know, it's not like I'm lost in it, which is like where the awareness piece comes in.
Yeah.
And then I just noticed through our interactions, I was like, actually, there's no way that we're a match. Like, I'm not going to sort of say things about him specifically, but there's no way that we're a match. So what that experience taught me was like, follow your desire and stay aware and listen to your body. Like, for me, that's how I kind of read things. And you know, and then gracefully exit the scene and think, well, I've learned something there. That's great. You know, I've honored myself all the way through, from following the desire to noticing what happened and kind of exiting the situation. So it's like the green flags and the red flags. People talk about red flags and green flags a lot, don't they, in dating? And I think back to like so many situations where I overrode red flags. And you know, now it's easier for me to talk about it because there's distance, there's greater awareness, and there's a willingness to be completely honest about everything. Because I think that's how I grow and that's how everyone else grows, if I'm just radically honest about everything. And why did I override those red flags? And it's because of fantasy. I was like making a story up in my head about who that person was and trying to fit it in my like storyline of like, I'm going to meet this, like the twin flame thing or the sacred union thing, or just like the perfect partner. And I'm trying to fit him into this box and then overlook the kinds of things like slightly denigrating comments or I'm just trying to think of another example. I can't think of another example now, but just little hints where something in the book goes, oh, that doesn't, you know, and then the other part of that for me, which I think might be relevant to a lot of women, is the people pleaser, which is like, I have to be nice to people. I have to be kind to people. I have to give them a chance. And that's something that I've done myself in the past in dating, is this kind of belief, I have to give them a chance. I have to be kind to them. And like now I'm thinking, no, that's actually not the most loving, compassionate thing for myself or for the other to do. Like several times I've had guys say to me early on or on a first date that they thought they weren't good enough for me. And I tried to persuade them
that they are.
Because I'm loving and because I'm so like wanting to be supportive to a person. It wasn't about making him like me, but it was like, oh, of course you're amazing. Like, duh, you know, like. And so then we did get into something and every single time it was rubbish. And I'm like, of course, because we started off on the basis that he felt inferior to me. Like, how's that ever going to work?
No way. I so relate to that. You know, I believe that if the guy tells you, I feel like I'm not good enough for you, just believe him.
Yes.
Just believe him. Don't try to rescue. Don't try to change. Don't try to be nice and soothe. Oh no, honey, but you're so good. But you're so you may see his amazingness, but he needs to see it himself for him to recognize it. 100%. You cannot love him into his brilliance. It's his job. And if he's not doing it, maybe he's not that brilliant after all.
Yeah, totally. You know? It's taken me a long time to really get that one. I wish I'd got it sooner.
Oh, don't we all? there, done that, for sure. You know, I think like for me, there is a sense when on the first date, like now my point is like give people a chance, but like to get to know them. Sometimes you just know instantly it's a no for me. It's a no. And it's important to listen to that and try not to convince yourself otherwise.
Yes.
But sometimes that there is like, it's a maybe. It's not a full yes, but it's a maybe. And this is when you have to, not if you have to, but it would be beneficial for you to give yourself time to actually find out, like, what is it? How am I feeling next to this person? Because this is a big thing for me, to understand how I'm feeling in someone's presence.
Yeah.
And especially when we are apart, you know, because that is a massive thing. It's like when we are together and everything is lovely, yes, that's great. But then when he goes to his house, I'm going back to mine. Like, how are we in between our meetings? Are we still in connection? Am I feel secure, or do I feel insecure? Does this feel good? Does this feel a bit like something's fishy happening? You know, like what is, so observing myself in all of those situations. I think that's very important. And you have mentioned something else. I can't remember what it is, what it was, but it was something that I really wanted to speak to, but I forgot what it was now.
Self-awareness, green flags, red flags.
Oh, yes. Self-awareness. Because something that occurs to me now, that a lot of people, a lot of the time, live in their head, not in their body. And you know, something that we have started this conversation with is like how to find out how to be when you are like in a dating world, like how to be feminine, or like how not to be masculine, or like all of this. It's like all you have to be is to get out of your head and feel what feels right and what doesn't feel right. I think your body gonna tell you when it's a no and you have a contraction, or when it's a yes and you feel like your shoulders drop and you can exhale. And I think like following those simple cues, you just change your dating experience completely and make it more fun for you. Like, do it for fun of it, for like a market research of like who you are, you know, with the different people, because different people activate different parts of you. And it's just fun to get to know yourself better. Just do it for yourself, not for others.
I really love that focus to bring it back to you. I love that so much. And again, like looking back on past experiences, I think I was so much focused out on the other and losing myself actually in that. And something I wrote down fulfillment and loneliness, because the thing is, it's like if we are lonely, or if we are not fulfilled in our lives, in ourselves, then we're probably going to be more likely to override red flags and to get lost in the seeking and make it about the other person. And I think that is, in my experience anyway, more of a feminine thing to do. I don't know if that's true, but like to get lost in the other, or to make it about the other rather than about self-centering, basically. And I think for like, in my experience of working with women for so many years, there needs to be more self-centering, like sexually, relationally, self-centering, not to become self-absorbed or narcissistic, but like don't lose yourself. And like you're saying, it starts with noticing how do I feel, what do I need, what do I want to explore, and you know, like just again make it sort of give concrete examples. Like in the dating apps that I'm on, or the app that I'm on now, I've completely just changed my whole perspective right now. I'm like, oh, this guy feels interesting, I might like to meet him. I have no agenda, but I just feel interested. I have a curiosity. That's it. I don't have like, oh, he has to be the love of my life. I have to have sex with him. I have, like, there's no agenda. And it's just so liberating then, because I'm like, I might learn something. I might make a friend. He might teach me how to play the piano. I don't know, like we might go on a great hike together. I love hiking. Like, who knows? He might help me paint my kitchen, you know, or we might discover that we really don't get on, and I will have learned something really useful for myself, you know. So it's such a different framework, and it just makes it so much more free. Like, we started off the conversation talking about being free, didn't we? You know?
And now we came full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that there is definitely freedom when you choose yourself, even in a relationship. Like, in a way that is, when you are, when your needs are met, when you just feel different, you know. But it's only for you to, like, set the foundation of how to relate to you by being that best friend with yourself first. If you cannot, if you always say to others, oh, don't worry about me, how do you expect to be a priority for others if you always, like, playing down your own needs, you know? So it's important to make your own needs important, and when your needs are met, then you become a better person for everyone around.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to highlight. For me, speaking as a mum, you know, being a mum and having been a single mum, and like I mean, I think there's a bit of nature and a bit of nurture in there to you know, because as a mum to young infants, you have to put them first. You have to, like, give up your sleep, give up everything to keep them alive and to nourish them. So that behavior really kicks in. But what I found then is that when I started to date again, I was doing that with the guys I was dating as well, because it became so ingrained to caretake. Oh, what do you want to eat? Oh, how, you know, should I make you a cup of tea? And I was like, what the heck? I've been running around all week looking after my kids, running my business. This guy comes around and I'm like taking care of him. I'm like, it became so ingrained. I'm still having to unlearn that, and be okay with receiving, to be okay with somebody else paying for me, somebody else taking me to dinner, somebody else doing anything for me, because I've become so used to having to do everything. It's quite unfamiliar for me to have someone want to take care of me or just do something for me without expecting something in return, you know. So I'm still learning that one. But I had a beautiful interaction with a male friend in the summer, but he played that role for me. It was really, well, he didn't, that's how he is. You know, he led, he paid for everything, he took me out to dinner, he paid, you know, and it was just such a beautiful thing to experience being taken care of by this beautiful man who was such a gentleman. And it was just a bit of a reset for me. And I'm thinking, gosh, I think so many women have to unlearn this caretaking behavior. You know, and like with this one younger guy on this app that I may be having a date with, I've just sat back and you know, he suggested to go to meet, and I'm like, okay, what do you suggest we do? Because I don't want to have to organize it. And one of the things that I didn't like with the other guy that I had the first date with was that I had to get really involved in organizing the date. And I noticed it made me feel drained. I noticed it made me feel a bit irritated. I noticed it made me feel tired because I organize things all the time. I'm great at organizing, you know, but when it comes to romance, I want the guy to say, I'll pick you up at 5. What kind of food do you like? I'll order Thai. You know, I don't want to have to be the organizer when I'm going on a date. I want to be able to relax and feel like, okay, I don't have to like go on my phone and like look for where the restaurant is and like look on Google Maps. Like, that's kind of getting me into my head. And like it's like, then I can't really be relaxed and be in my body and be in my just beautiful vivaciousness as well at the same time.
Yeah, I totally get that. You know, one of the things, like, where I come from, actually men pay for women. You know, this is just how it goes. So for me, when that is not what's happening, like when we are going on a date and there is an option of 50-50, I'm like, be sure we're never gonna see each other again. Like,
Wow.
this is just not going to happen for sure. You know, like, even for example, when in my family we go out and men pay for women, are they their wife or not? Like, I'm going out, for example, with my friend and her husband gonna pay for us.
Wow.
You know, this is just how it is. This is the caretaking tradition. This is the masculine role, that men are looking after women in that way, in providing way.
In providing way. And I'm aware, as you're saying that, I'm aware because I'm following this so much at the moment on social media. I've seen a lot of comments, as I read the comments, because I'm genuinely fascinated by it. There are a lot of men, it seems, who don't like that expectation, who feel it's unfair, who don't have the money, and then probably feel not good enough, but instead of admitting they don't feel good enough, will become aggressive or reactive. So, you know, it does bring up those issues. I think I'm just aware we've also been talking for quite a long time, so we're going to have to wrap up quite soon. We might have to do this again and talk.
I think so. I think so. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah, I think we should probably wrap up. We've been talking for an hour. It's gone so quickly. I didn't even get to talk about half the things that I put on my list, but we've just flowed with it. I'd like to mention a couple of things, and you might want to mention something. So I'll just mention that, as you know, as a follow-on from the blogs that I've been writing, and I'm going to continue to write and celebrating today. Thank you very much. I think her name is Joan. My first paid subscriber to my dating blog. I'm so grateful.
Yay! Amazing! Congratulations.
It really means a lot. I feel a little bit tearful. I know it's like, but yeah, it means a lot. Right, so I'm going to be offering some events as part of the Conscious Dating Collective starting this week. And this week I've got 2 women's circles. I'm doing single sex meetings first because I think we've got a lot to get off our chests. So there's a women's circle Wednesday night with me, there's a women's circle Saturday morning with me, and then there's a men's circle next Thursday evening with me. And this is like to kick off the Conscious Dating Collective and have an opportunity to share, to do some processes to help you tune into what's going on, to ask me questions. And I'm going to do a little bit of reflecting, but gently, because I don't want to go too deep, but I'm very good at like just seeing the little things that could make all the difference in how people are going about things. So that's what I'm going to be offering, and we can put the details of this, or I'll put the details of this underneath the video when we're finished. I'm very excited. So that's all I'm going to mention for now. What would you like to mention?
Well, first of all, congratulations on your first paid subscriber. It's such a big deal. This is brilliant.
Yeah.
So what I would love to mention is that on the 20th of January, I have dating bootcamp for women. And I would love to invite you ladies to come along and unlearn what you have learned about dating and relationships and start fresh, where you are juicy, fresh and magnetic and full of energy, and focus on yourself. Allow yourself to be treated like a queen that you are. So that's my invitation. And also I'll invite you to come and join my mailing list, because I host events in Folkestone very often. And next event will be in February, and it will be Introduction to Tantra.
Oh,
so, very juicy. So yes.
Is that for women only, or is that mixed?
No, it's mixed.
Oh, yummy.
It's mixed. Yes, it will be super exciting, bringing some sexiness and tantra to Folkestone, where I live. It will be juicy.
Yeah, I think anyone who's watched this will get that straight away, even if they don't know you already, Eugina, because you just exude this beautiful, feminine, grounded, juicy goddess. Oh,
thank you.
so
Thank you so much. I'm very proud of all the work that I did and where I am today. Really, really am proud. And I will tell you what, it wasn't a very glamorous or easy experience, you know. It's been like blood, sweat and tears.
Mm-hmm.
And yet,
Mm-hmm.
you know, here I am.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. It feels nice to receive this compliment.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. I have so enjoyed this chat. I hope everyone who's been watching has. I can see there have been comments, but I've not been able to focus on the comments as we've been talking. Look out for more co-creations, possibly. Thank you everyone so much for watching and being with us tonight. It's been a real joy, and I hope it's been helpful, inspiring in some way. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And if you have any questions, post them in the comments and we will attend to them. And lots of love for now. And thank you. It's been wonderful chatting to you about dating, and thanks so much for sharing your experiences. And I think it's just wonderful. And the dating collective, conscious dating collective, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So
thanks, darling. See you soon. Lots of love, everyone.
Until next time. Bye.